Thank you for joining another episode of Charla sa Sala. Today I have a very special guest. 2024 has been a year where a lot of Filipino Canadians have been in politics, in the showbiz industry, in entertainment, and so many other various fields. Today I am joined by none other than Alec Carlos. And Alec is a Winnipeg-based actor, musician, filmmaker, and writer. And formerly in the moniker of AC Breeze, Alec Carlos has been writing music for over 11 years, as well as forming the band Open Tab and becoming its frontman in 2018. Aside from music, Alec has worked in film and television under multiple different hats, writing, directing, and starring in the award-winning short film In a Moment's Notice that was launched in 2021, and most notably starring in Orphan First Kill in 2022, Elevator Game in 2023, and an upcoming thriller called Safe Haven. Welcome to the show, Alec.
Thank you so much. Sorry, my bio was a mouthful, eh?
Well, that's because you've accomplished a lot of things.
I'm a very bored guy.
He is a person of many talents. But first of all, before that, you are a Manitoban first. And so I wanted to kind of talk about your kind of identity as a Manitoban, because like myself, you're also a 1.5 generation Filipino Canadian. But unlike me, that landed in Winnipeg, you ended up in Steinbach. Tell me more about that migration story.
Yeah.
How did your family end up there, and what was it like for you to grow up in Steinbach?
So, well, at first, we landed in Winnipeg for a good couple of years, and then my dad got a job near Steinbach. And so I think I was 8 years old, and I remember that I think my 9th birthday was the second day that we had moved to Steinbach already. So yeah, it was kind of in a way, everything fell into place. Steinbach is not necessarily where I thought I was going to necessarily grow up, because it's at the time there were only 10 families there really that were Filipino, and then it was like 2009, right? There wasn't really anything too crazy. Now it's very diverse. People look at me like I'm new, which is cool. I'm like, oh hell yeah! I mean, I'm here now, and just went out to Vancouver, and then I came back here to Winnipeg. So it was growing up in Steinbach. It put that chip on my shoulder, and like people in Winnipeg, growing up in Winnipeg too, we all have that chip on our shoulder. It feels like there's a glass ceiling above a lot of the things that we do here, and we can't reach that next level, so to say, unless we leave the city or wait for something to come to us. And so I think just growing up in Manitoba itself, it rectified that and really did. That chip on my shoulder is what really drives everything, that hunger. And like you said, like I do a lot of things. I'm a very bored person, but also it's a lot of the stuff that I wanted to do as a kid. And growing up, not a lot of opportunities in Manitoba gave that chance for a kid to go into acting or film or music or even wrestling, to say. So yeah, I think my identity as a Manitoban is, the thick skin, the iron heart, I would say, and just the hard work. Nobody here is afraid of hard work, because we're stuck with a winter that's minus 30 for 5 months in a year that we're kind of accustomed to it at this point. Yeah.
So there's that certain grit and that intent, to forge a path for yourself and to tell stories. You're very much a storyteller. Not only are you a writer, an actor, but you also produce things. And one of the more interesting things, apart from so many things that you're doing right now, is becoming a writer for Maria and the Menos.
Right.
So that's a series that, has it gone out?
Yep, it's out now. It's still showing on Yes TV, so go check that out.
Yeah, so Maria and the Menos, tell us a little bit about what it is and what was your involvement in that. So obviously it's about this woman who marries into a Mennonite family. She's Filipina, so the series kind of investigates what that looks like in a very funny, heartfelt way.
Yeah, I think that's very much the soul of it, and it's representing a lifestyle and also a part of prairie life that isn't necessarily touched on as much. It's an underrepresented story, and it happens very often around southeastern Manitoba, southwestern Manitoba, Manitoba in general. And the main thing that we wanted to do with that was to kind of make sure that it goes in a direction that it's not stereotyped, and that we're representing each culture respectfully, and also like the beauty of the mix of cultures and the differences and how the differences actually turn into similarities in some sense. So yeah, like that's basically the bottom line. And how I got into it, my friend Hazel Wallace, she got me on the team, and Paul Plett, thankfully accepted me into the team as well, and Tina Kaler. Everybody was great to work with, and a lot of ideas were bouncing back and forth, and it was a very good collaborative effort. So yeah, I was just happy to be part of it.
Yeah. So is it the first time that you're in a writing team? Because I know you've produced your own stuff. How different is it when you're kind of taking inspiration from yourself, writing it down, versus sitting down with other people and discussing, okay, this is where we want to take the story?
Yeah, it's very different, eons different. Like in a moment's notice, I had written that in probably 30 minutes to an hour-ish, but that was because I knew what I wanted to tell and the story of this. And so it's different because I have my own personal vision of that, and I'm like, oh, I'm gonna run with it, and I'm just gonna do it. But when it comes to a team, it's like you have your ideas and there's layers that you have to filter it through to make sure that not only is everyone on the same page with the same vision, but that we're all listening to each other and we're all taking each other's input and then putting that into the final product, right? So in a way, if everybody's input is an ingredient, at the end of the day, we want a good tasting cake, right?
Yeah,
so,
we got a good menudo going
exactly. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, so you talked about In a Moment's Notice. So for folks at home that don't know what that is, that's your award-winning short film. It's had its run in so many film festivals, very celebrated. And it's about a guy, Atlas, and he receives a very jarring news, right? That he was diagnosed with stage 3 cancer. And now he has to take that in and explain to his family that he has this debilitating illness. And what I love about that is, in that work, you really centered change and how change is often the only thing that's constant. And I think I see that in a lot of your work, especially in your discography as well. You write about end of relationships, whether that's romantic or platonic. Right. How do you deal with change? So recently you came back to Winnipeg, but before that you were living in Vancouver, So tell us, what was that like and how has that inspired the work that you're putting out now?
So yeah, like when I made In a Moment's Notice, it was kind of a letter to myself as well, because I knew that within a couple of months I would be moving to Vancouver and I'd be leaving this whole era behind. I lived with great roommates for a good 4 to 5 years before that, and just letting go of a second family of sorts. Like I remember when moving out of there and I'm like sitting in the whole new bedroom and I don't hear them outside my room anymore. It was very sad. Like I teared up, and then I went back there because they were all still there. So we just all hung out one last time. But yeah, it was change. I don't think we can ever get used to it. It's always going to be there, like the short film says. It's just a matter of when it does come, and it will, how ready are we to take it in and embrace it? Because there's no point in fighting something inevitable. And so I think, that in itself, me especially, like moving to Vancouver and then moving back from Vancouver, these are all very different eras of my life. And each transition hasn't been easy, It's always just being okay with goodbye and like letting go of that portion and be happy for what happened during it, what I learned from it, and not regret anything, because at the end of the day, I wouldn't be who I am if I didn't go through all of those stages of life.
Yeah.
So yeah, change is inevitable, change is scary, but change is necessary, because without change, we're practically dead.
Yeah. Without change, then there's no life, essentially.
Yeah.
And it's these life experiences that really make us who we are, and who you are or have been has been very interesting, because not only are you a producer, a writer, but you also do your own music, right? So with Open Tab, you were telling me earlier over lunch that it's a collaborative project between these group of friends, right? And tell us about your music writing process. I know you also released an album, El Tragico, which I fell asleep listening to. Not because
I'm sorry.
It was boring, but it was just really comforting. So tell us, because you wear multiple hats, right? So who is Alex now? And who is Alec now? And how do we distinguish between these multiple kind of personalities, personas that you put forward.
Right. So like me as a person, I'm a very private person. I like to keep a lot of details in my personal life to myself or like my close circle around me. And so that kind of, I like that because then that's my separation between all the artistry that's going on. AC Breeze, that discography, especially El Tragico. El Tragico is a very conceptual album, and I wanted to tell a story with a lot of lore. There's a whole lot of lore behind it I want to touch on in the future with projects. But just, I guess, the climb and then the downfall, because the mask itself in El Tragico, the concept, it's almost like Jim Carrey, the mask. It takes over the person bit by bit, but the person has to be down out of their luck. So it's almost that last resort. How far are you willing to go to have the people love you? What is the cost of conformity, and is it worth that price at the end of the day? Are you wanting to socially sell out, essentially, is the bottom line. And at the end, in a way, the character, El Tragico, I think the fourth incarnation, he does give in, and there's an animalistic, very dark ending to that concept. And that goes for, it's, if anything, it's an amplified version of life. We get to that point, and then we kind of give in, and then everything blows up in our face. And then there's the what now? Was it worth it? Was it actually worth all that trouble? Because you climbed all the way and now you got there, and then now what? You didn't think past this point. So yeah, I think that was kind of the main thought process there. And then for any other songs, like with my band, why I don't do AC Breeze anymore is because it kind of like my heart wasn't into it as much anymore. And the reason I love Open Tab now is because of that collaborative effort. Like, it's not just me anymore in a bedroom, like on Notepad, just kind of doing this on my own and thinking of these concepts. Now I have like all of my friends kind of, to bounce ideas off of, and they've got some great ideas, and I'm just there to cheer them on too with that. And so, yeah, Open Tab just allows that play for all of us to get involved, and also at the same time be proud of what we put out, because it's not just a me thing, it's an us thing. And otherwise it wouldn't be called Open Tab. It'd be like Alec and the pharmacist plus an architect, so everybody gets involved, and that's what I love about it.
That's what, there's the element of teamwork, but also the element of, saying that I contributed to this in some way, which is so, I don't know, there's something about putting something out and people appreciating it that's it's very human. And I think it's one thing that we all want. And that's why the amount of stuff that you've put out is very impressive, because that's a part of you that's out there in the real world for people like us to consume. So I hope you're very proud of that.
Thank you so much.
So the next topic that I kind of want to talk about, is, earlier we talked about change. Now I want to talk about desire, and you kind of touched on this a little bit. It's something also that's inevitable, and it's a really scary thing, when you let it kind of consume you. And I want to relate it back to, you moving out of Winnipeg and pursuing better things in Vancouver. What was that like? How uncertain were you, when you moved out of Manitoba?
Oh, so uncertain. I think the moment I got on that plane, there was a thought in my head. I was like, is this the right decision? Because it's a sea of unknown, and I was pretty scared of what could be next or what wouldn't be next. I had an idea in my head of what I wanted to accomplish, but the question was, how long would it take for me to achieve some of those things? And the fact that I was scared was kind of an even bigger reason why I was like, okay, that means I have to do this. Because if that's lingering over my head and I don't do it, then that big what if is gonna be another big chip on my shoulder. And I don't know if that's a chip that I can brush off, because who knows, like, we all have time windows, and certain, everything happens for a reason at a certain time. And if I had missed that opportunity, then I would have beat myself up over it, like, for probably my entire life. But yeah, so it was kind of just, daunting at first, and just really hoping that everything worked out, and in a way it did. I accomplished a lot of things that I wanted to accomplish, and then again, there's a time when there's writing on the wall, and the writing was on the wall for me to come back home. That was it.
So when we talk about desire, what do you desire right now, as an artist, as a son, as a citizen of Manitoba, right? Like, what drives you right now?
I think, like, as much as a lot has changed, my modus operandi, my mode of operation has always stayed the same. And that's just like, there are there are like 4 things that I loved as a kid. And that's film, that's acting, which can be the same thing, I guess. There's music, and then there's wrestling. And so what I just want to do as an adult now is find a way to do what I love as a kid, and obviously, make an income from it so I don't have to worry about money. Money is a very, like, everybody has to deal with it, and the more I don't have to think about it, the better, because then I can focus on having fun, doing what I'm doing, and then having my friends with me and helping them achieve those dreams as well, and, just everybody being able to do what they wanted to do as a kid, but reaping the benefits as an adult from it.
Yeah.
And that's kind of the main thing. And also, like you said, again, I keep going back to the chip on my shoulder, but it's very true. And I think that's also a big push for desire. Like, we all have that glass ceiling, like I've mentioned before, especially in acting here. Nobody thinks of Winnipeg as an acting hub, even though that's actually what we're slowly becoming in the film industry. Our film industry is doing really well. But the fact that it's taken this long and a lot of people still feel like they have to leave the city to find more, I think that is a main goal for me now, like, especially being back here, is how can we make this place untouchable in that sense, where that glass ceiling is no longer there. It's proverbial, sure, it's a myth, but then when you look up and you look around, you realize that ceiling is just floating on something, and you can just go around it and keep going forward, right? So in a way, just trying to find a way to make that happen. A lot of people in the city are also trying to make that happen, which is a great thing. And it's just hopefully down the line, that is the main desire, is just making Winnipeg the place.
Put it on the map.
Put it on the map, exactly.
Yeah. I want to talk about, obviously family as well, because you're the bunso out of how many kids?
2.
2 kids.
Or 3 in total,
Yeah.
I got 2 siblings.
Yeah, 2 siblings. And obviously your parents have been super supportive in everything that you're doing. One of the big things that we talk about in the Filipino community is allowing, each child to pursue what they want. Tell us about your relationship with your family, with your siblings. I know your brother also is an artist in a way himself.
He was also a former president of SEMFA, the Southeastern Manitoba Filipino Association. I hope I got that right. Like, my relationship with my family, they have always been very supportive. When I told them I was going to go to university for film, they were very supportive. And in my head, I'm like, are they gonna tell me to be a nurse? But no, they were very like, okay, go do what you want to do. And being the youngest, like, I feel like that helped a lot. My siblings are much older than me.
Yeah, because they set up the trial for you.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, exactly. So now, my brother and my sister, they have their families. They have the grandkids from my parents. Now I don't have to really worry about that. And it just allows me to kind of, like, now I can kind of do what I want. And as long as I'm doing it, and that, again, that's more the desire as well, is proving that I can do this. Because a lot of people, when I tell people, like, I'm going to school for film, I'm going to be an actor, I'm going to be a wrestler, it's all the same reaction. And at the end of the day, that's the reaction I want, because that's the reaction that pushes like the envelope even further. I'm very happy. Like, my parents, my siblings are all very supportive. Like, they'll text me, and my brother will text me like opportunities and whatnot as well. And it's just really nice. It's especially with a Filipino family, you don't really get that. And I'm very, very lucky, very blessed to have my family as my cheerleaders, because, again, not everybody gets that. So you just got to cherish that. And it puts an even bigger like motivator, because if not everyone gets it, then I really can't mess this up. I got to keep going, and I got to make this what I really want it to be.
Yeah, make it count. And that also brings me to your latest project. So you're doing your first, feature film.
Yes.
And it's about, all the places that you visited growing up. It's incorporating nature and memory. And I think you've got something special here. Tell us more about it.
So it's called Tallies. My very, very close friend, Vince Tang, God bless him. He's I would call him my mentor because everything I've really learned on set, as a grip or anything like camera-wise lingo, I learned from him. And so the fact that he's, you know, tagging along with me and wanting to make this with me is awesome. And it is what the baseline is, basically what we all go through, and that's resistance versus acceptance. Being in Manitoba, it's really easy to have contempt for this place, you know, especially with the winters and like, again, with not a lot going on, it can be really easy to get in your head. And so at the end of the day, we can fight that or we can accept it. And so we are products of our own environments. How we perceive that environment reflects in our behavior. And that is a very true lesson that I learned, especially coming back. It was one of those things where I just didn't know if I'm supposed to be back here, you know, like what happened, like what, all of these things that fell in line in life for me to be back here. Why am I here? And so it took a couple of months of just being in that headspace of like, oh, you know, I don't have any drive right now. I have no motivation, nothing. And then it just clicked one day. And I'm like, I think we got like a really, really nice day because we had a really late winter. And I'm like, why isn't there snow yet? You know, this is kind of weird. I kind of want the snow. And I thought about that statement. I'm like, I want snow? I want cold? And then that got me thinking, I'm like, oh, wow. Okay, wait, hold on a minute. And I went on a drive with my friend Bryce. And there were just, like, during the drive, there were just little things. We went through Giroux, Manitoba, which is such a small town. And just the beauty of, you know, one street and like a railway crossing. For some reason, to me, that was beautiful. And just that mindset then started to develop even more and more and more. And I rediscovered my love for Manitoba. And I felt like, wow, this is kind of something that hasn't been spoken about really too much. And maybe there is someone out there that's kind of, you know, going through the same thing that I did. And again, like, we just need to hear things again to reapply it to our lives. And I didn't get to hear it. And I knew this before, but I didn't get to hear it. And it just took a couple of months to realize it again. So yeah, and then I started writing this film, and it kind of just kept pushing forward, and yeah, that's where we are.
That's where we are. And so
Yeah.
you're going to be spending the rest of 2024 filming everything, making sure everything's in line. I really relate to that message, right? Sometimes when you're in a place, it's so easy to just like look further than where you actually are. And it's hard to appreciate what you already have.
Right.
So, you know, the fact that we're visiting what we have right now is a sentiment that like, actually maybe things are okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, maybe things are fine. So what are some things that you do to remind yourself that life is actually beautiful?
Life is okay. Honestly, I go for walks. Like I'll go to especially in Steinbach, there's not a whole lot of scenic places to go, but my comfort zone is just going to places that I've walked with friends before. Like in high school, you know, we have certain spots in high school, and I'll go revisit those places as a way of kind of easing down. Like if I'm overwhelmed or overstimulated with everything going on in life, then that's my way of getting back to base form, is just reminding myself of the roots around me, essentially. And then there's that. There's also, like, I watch a lot of wrestling to cool down, because that, again, the wrestling had taught me English to begin with.
No way.
Yeah, it's actually crazy. And so being able to watch that and, like, easing down, especially with the strikes and everything, I wasn't thinking about acting. I couldn't, because it just made me like, oh, I wish I would something. And so I was watching wrestling instead, and that was part of the whole process leading up to writing the film too, is just like rediscovering what you really loved as a kid. Because at the end of the day, sure, we grow up, but the further away we get from being a child, the closer we actually become to coming like full circle. So yeah, I think that's just it. Just do what you love as a kid. Remind yourself why you were so happy before, because that's our most innocent and most free-form version of ourselves, is that. Like, we'll gravitate towards what we really love.
What did you love when you were a kid? And that actually brings me to my last question now, which would be, you know, for advice, especially for folks that are trying to pursue acting, trying to pursue a career in entertainment. What is something that you wish you could have told younger Alec when you were starting out?
Oh, don't be afraid of what other people think. I think, especially in acting, there's a whole stigmatization where you go into a room and you have to impress all these people. You have to impress the director, you have to impress the casting director, the producers in the room. like in a way, yes, like you have like put on the performance that they'll be willing to hire you, but at the same time, don't walk in there thinking that they are like always watching you, because at the end of the day, what's on their mind is not to critique you and like break you down as a person. What's on their mind is this person going to fit the character that we want to fit? And if it's not, then a lot of the time it comes down to look as well. It comes down to all these other facets. So if you overthink before going into the room, then you're already your worst enemy. It's always like, it's more natural to just go in there and be like, okay, I'm gonna put on the best performance that I can for myself, and then if that's enough for them, then that's great. But if it's not, then there's another opportunity. And it's all to satisfy yourself, and that's why I do it. I get a little bit of a huge dopamine boost when I get something right in acting or anything. And it's just like, oh, that's rewarding. That's why I do this, because my brain is craving these things, right? So yeah, I'd say just be fearless. Don't care too much about what other people think, because opinions are opinions, and at the end of the day, you don't take those opinions with you when you die. So
no.
Yeah.
What you take are memories. What you take are experiences.
Exactly.
And it's your life to live. Man. Yeah.
Yeah.
So thank you so much for this
Thank
wonderful
you for having
conversation.
me.
I learned so much about you and the artistic process that you have. Before we go, I'd love to give you an opportunity to speak to our audience about, first of all, where we can find you, any other upcoming projects, and of course, parting words for people that are thinking of visiting Manitoba.
Oh man. All right. Well, where you can find me on Instagram at ACBREEZE_. I think that's the only thing I have. What was the second part of the question?
Which is, Tourism Manitoba, other projects, and of course,
other projects. Yeah, Open Tab. We have an EP in the works. It will be out hopefully this year, if not next year. It's called Off Script. Keep an eye out for that. We'll be having a lot of shows as well in Manitoba, so keep an eye, keep an ear out for that. And in terms of if anybody wants to come visit Manitoba, let me tell you, don't come for the views, come for the people, because a lot of people here, I think anywhere that I've been, Manitoba has had the most golden people ever. And that's the thing, is because we don't have too much around us to work with, so we're just gonna take it. We're gonna take it on the chin, and we're gonna work on ourselves, and that's the main thing. So really, you wanna come here, go to the Forks, go check out the Exchange District, check everything out, but don't be afraid to talk to people, because I think that's the true experience of this place.
Yeah, we are friendly Manitoba for
a reason. We really are. It's on a license plate for a reason.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much again, Alec, for joining me on the show today. It's been really insightful. And for our friends joining us from home, thank you again for joining me, Karla, at Karla Sasala. You can find Karla Sasala at Mabuhay TV on Multicultural. We're at Multicultural anywhere that you can stream. And you can also find us online on Facebook, Instagram, and on Twitter. Once again, thank you so much. My name is Karla. Have a good night.